Let's give a really warm round of applause to Thangam Thennarasu, the Finance Minister of Tamil Nadu, apart from that, the Environment and Climate Change Minister. So that's a huge, huge portfolio. And we have a very, sorry, let me just get this out of the way. Yeah. So we have a very important discussion, which is essentially looking at what our compeer said, federalism and the fun twist. And let me just talk a little bit of that before I come to you, Minister, is that at the heart of Indian democracy, there is a very, very delicate balance. And that is the sharing of resources between the center and state. Unfortunately, recently, that balance has been disturbed and has become a flashpoint, a controversial point. Now, southern states, and that's why we're discussing this, in particular, have been, they feel penalized for what is called good governance, penalized for having high growth rates and low population growth rates. So what happens is in the allocation of resources, states that have large populations tend to get more funds. They may not be generating the kind of funds that were there. We'll get into some of these figures. But another area that has started creating tensions is the GST, which you all agreed upon, but certainly there's been controversy about the fact that are the states' resources going to be denied? We know that the center talked of 48,000 crores of loss. How much of that is the state's loss? How that will be allocated is the other big question. So we have a top expert on this, and you've been finance minister apart from several other ministries that you've been holding. Tamil Nadu has been in the forefront of this whole battle or debate of fair allocation of federal funds. And as I said, there is a paradox. This state works very hard, but does great in economic growth, and yet your share of taxes in central funds have fallen, from central funds have fallen. So how would you see this entire debate that is there? Are you, what are the corrective measures you feel that it should be done? Firstly, the balance of funds. Let's talk of that. What is your sense in terms of the unfairness of that? Is it unfair, as you all have argued? And what needs to be done? Your mic is this. Try this. Sorry.
See, right from the beginning, if you see, there is always a flaw in the system, I would say. As you know very well, when India got independence, the entire nation was very weak, and the focus was on the central stage. And at that time, the center had a lot of responsibilities to build the nation. But eventually, you know very well that the states will have to take care of the needs like education, health, and everything. So the states were told to go in for their own revenue generations, creating their own resources. So what had actually happened, the responsibilities which were actually shouldered by the centers over a period of time, it was transferred to the shoulders of the states. And states were burdened with a lot of other responsibilities also. So that created a basic imbalance in the entire scenario right from the day one. What happened, for example, if you take the states now, they are now responsible for 2/3 of the projects, for the 2/3 of the expenditure part of it. Whereas the revenue for the individual states, it stands at only at the 1/3 of it. So your revenue was 1/3 of it, and your expenditures are 2/3 of it. And this 2/3 of expenditure is to be incurred by the states with the revenue sources of only 1/3. So there is an imbalance. So this continues for years and years, and this is yet to be corrected.
Right.
And even after the advent of GST, we all thought that some correction would be done as assured. The revenues of the states would be protected, or rather compensated. Even that had stopped at one particular point of time. Even before we were now getting out of the shock of COVID and the aftermath of the COVID and everything. So it is yet to be compensated. So this is, if you take the entire scenario, overall scenario, there have been a consistent issue with the structure of the system. That structures, the flaw in the system, that needs to be corrected first. Only then there will be an equal and fair play of revenue allocations, the resource allocations between the state and center.
Now, do you see this merely as an accounting issue in some senses, or part of a larger, not conspiracy, but a kind of a move, especially where opposition ruled states are there, that the center, which is controlling, which need not necessarily be of the same party as Yola, begins to somewhat use their influence to hammer you all down? Is that something that you have experienced?
Yes, it is always there. The partisan is always there. That is why when I made my first point, I used the word to be fair enough.
Now come to Tamil Nadu. I want you to be specific with regard to Tamil Nadu. You have the BJP government there wanting to capture power along with its coalition partners. How much have they hammered you down in terms of some of the programs?
Yes, it has got a very, I would say, it is not a mere dent on the programs. It has made a very, very specific, irreparable losses to the government. Just because we belong to the opposition, we are not treated on par with the BJP-ruled states. Again, that is why when we are saying, when we are talking about this, that is why we are saying that when it comes to the matters of fiscal issues, there must be a cooperative federalism. The cooperative federalism must be in its true spirits. When there is a partisan between the BJP-ruled governments and the opposition-ruled governments, where those governments will get more money, and the due legitimate fiscal allocations for the states ruled by the opposition is denied. And that is completely, it changes the cooperative federalism into a coercive federalism.
Can you give us 2 or 3 examples of how your own programs or your demands have been impacted because the center didn't yield? On the top of your mind, I know you.
Yeah. I can quote umpteen number of examples, but just to name a few, I would say this. As a policy, we have now told them that we cannot have Hindi as the third language in our schools. Just because we are not agreeing to that point in the NEP, the funds which are due for our school education department through this Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, to the tune of around 4,000 crores is yet to be released.
Wow.
In spite of the fact that the school education minister, the finance minister, the CM, every one of the state who are responsible for the individual department, for the overall health of the state, who are all responsible. We have been making consistent and constant efforts in banging the doors of the central government, the union government, saying that, look, where are the money which are actually due for us? We need to pay for our students. We need to create schoolrooms. We need to really pay our teachers. This money has to be given to us. Until date, sir, till this minute I am talking to you, the money has not come to the state. Why? Why this attitude? Because as a policy we have taken it. And just because we are not agreeing to a particular point, we have taken it as on a policy decisions, you are now denying all these rights to us. Equally, when you talk about the disaster management, the funds from NDRF, they are not, they are released, but not commensurate with the exact damages actually caused. I can still go and say that the center's share towards the central-sponsored schemes, it was once 75% from the central government and 25% from the state governments. Today it is 60-40. So what does it mean? The union government, it gradually reduces its share. At the same time, the states are burdened with increasing their equity in it.
Right.
So this creates a lot of issues for the health of the state finances.
And despite the fact that the language policy is supposed to be implemented by the states, it's a state subject, it is supposed to be voluntarily done. I mean, you cannot do a fiat. And yet you're saying the center is using that as a stick to beat you all and deny funds. Am I right? That's what essentially...
Exactly, sir. They're actually waiting for a cause. Why? There is actually no need for it. Maharashtra, for example, you take them. Now they have denied it. Earlier they were for it, and then there were a lot of issues in Maharashtra erupting out of this issue. They have now agreed to it. But why not the same yardstick is followed in Tamil Nadu for the very same policy made? Which means what? You are showing clear partisan between the states which are favorable to you, be it your own party-ruled states or who are in alliance with you. The states the parties who are in alliance with you, they might be ruling in certain states. And you would try to appease them. You will travel one extra mile to appease them. Whereas, for example, for a state like Tamil Nadu, we will have to really go with the begging for our own legitimate demands.
Right. And because you also handle environment and climate change, one of the issues is the flood situation, right? And you have to make your demands whenever there's been unseasonal rains or a lot of damage as we've seen across the north. How is the approach in terms of that? Some of the issues that you face while dealing with the center when you have look for relief and other measures that are there?
Yes. Normally what we would do, we will get a ad hoc amount from them. Every year the union government will have to really release their share of funds towards NDRF. That money they are releasing. Whether there is a disaster or there is no disaster, doesn't matter. This money will have to come as a reserve. Only that particular amount is released. Not a penny for the exact damages which were caused by the disasters. For the last 4 years, Tamil Nadu has got about 3 major disasters. One is the Mixam thing from Chennai. The second is the unheard of flood situation in the southern districts. And third is again a big disaster. All these things, the damages, nothing has been given to us. In spite of a repeated request, we went and we said, look, these are all the damages cost. This is our estimates. This is the fund which needs to be released. Only when you give this money under NDRF, this can be really done. They have not given any money for this. Why?
And that's a good point, because if you take a look at what's happening across the country, particularly 2025, I think we're feeling the adverse impacts of climate change. We have seen how there have been tremendous amount of rain up in the northern states, and whether Himachal, Punjab, there's been huge displacement that's happened in Jammu and Kashmir. Come this side also, Delhi has been inundated. And of course, we've seen Chennai and everything else. What should the government's approach be towards, the central government's approach towards helping our states to mitigate the fact that climate change is on us now seems very clear. What do you think center needs to be done in terms of funding that could enable states like Tamil Nadu and others to mitigate these damages, of course, and also meet the immediate emergencies that happen?
See, in addition to the immediate emergency expenses, what needs to be done in this case is that we need to really invest on a long-term capital expenditure. We need to really create assets that will mitigate all these situations, the flood situations or whatsoever it is, over a period of time, for which you will have to make a concrete permanent solutions for this, which means that involves great amount of capital expenditure. The union government should be generous enough to allocate and release funds towards it. Only when you give this, only when you give more money to this, the states would be in a real position to really make permanent solutions in terms of capital expenditure, in terms of mitigation of your flood situations even in future. So my request to the center is always, you please be generous when it comes to the allocation of funds towards capital expenditure. As you have rightly told, the initial response could be different. That is for a very short-term temporary measures.
Disaster
the state
relief.
Government, yes, we can help you. We can now, immediately we can offer some help. But when you want to really go in for on a long-term basis, the necessary assistance in terms of fiscal allocations should come from the central government.
Now, just a little question on environment, putting on your environment hat in climate change. Take a look at Tamil Nadu. What is the crisis?
It's a change from finance to climate, I think. It's now quick changes.
Just a little bit in terms of some of the priorities you think Tamil Nadu should focus on, because agriculture dependence is very high. If rainfall patterns change, flooding, droughts, rivers overflowing, each of them have their impact on it. Apart from the fact that, if you take a look at some of the industries that have to start sustainable development that's there, what is Tamil Nadu doing to ensure that firstly it is able to mitigate and adapt to some of these situations, and secondly being at the cutting edge of sustainable solutions?
Yeah, Tamil Nadu has been always a forerunner in this. And when it comes to the sustained development goals, Tamil Nadu has been again accredited the #1 state in India for this. And as a measures of this, the Environment Department, in association with Forest Department, we are now going in for creating a lot of space for it. Tamil Nadu, I would say that it is the state which has got 20 Ramsar sites now. That is one of the biggest achievement, I would say. This is the first state in the country which has got 20 Ramsar sites. And we are also engaged in the pollution control measures. Very strict adherence to the pollution control, very strict measures in giving the clearances from the environmental clearances, which is being adopted now. And as a whole, I would say that we are coming with a lot of other projects, even from the school programs, right up to the creation of forests, everything. The forest cover is now increased. So every bit of it is now taken care by the Environment Department. Side by side, we are also now looking towards the blue economy also. When we talk about all these things, that should not affect the livelihoods of the people over there, especially in the coastal lines. For them, we have now devised specific plans for the blue economy. So we are now making a balance when it comes to the livelihood of the people without compromising the needs on the environmental front.
Let's compliment the minister. I switched topics and he came up with a very good answer in terms of it. I caught him by surprise on this one. But coming back to the subject.
That is called adaptability, I think.
Coming back to GST and what I'd mentioned earlier, fiscal autonomy that's there. If you take a look at the fact that the GST Council is dominated by the center, and also since they have a lot of states with them, the states feel they've lost control over fiscal autonomy. And the GST has become a centralizing tool rather than a cooperative one. And I would like you to first comment on the fact what happened recently. Did you think it was a cooperative one, or was it sort of imposed on you all? And secondly, what needs to be done to ensure fiscal autonomy of the states?
See, GST, after GST, I would straight away say the fiscal autonomy of the state is now taken away. Earlier, during the VAT regime, yes, we can decide. The state, they can decide on its own for which product, what could be the tax, when and where it has to be levied and all. Now it has become, after this, the center, now they have taken a convenient advantage behind the cess and the surcharges. So GST is for the tax rates, tax incidences. Whereas the cess that is being collected by the center, it straight away it goes to the kitty of the center. Right?
So they beat you by taking cesses.
Exactly. So as long as their needs are taken care by way of cess, they are quite well with it. Whereas the state's revenues are hit. For example, for the rate rationalization, the GST meeting recently we had in Delhi, we are not opposed to the rationalizations. I would still say we have already made it clear on behalf of the 8 states, the opposition states. And today, in front of everyone, I would like to again reiterate that we are not against rate rationalization. As long as it serves good, as long as it helps the actual consumers, it is fine. We would welcome it. But at the same time, when you reduce when you make the structural changes in the slab system, who will be affected more? The states. And the compensation for the states, that is not assured. The states, now people would say that by bringing in this nationalization exercise, people say that the loss to both the union government, the total loss, I would say, including the states, to be somewhere in between 83,000 to 2 lakh crores.
That much. I see. I thought they said it was the 48,000 crores. No.
They say it. Actually, it should be much more. It should be much more. That is why during the meeting we insisted that you please come out with this specific number. Even that was not committed. Because it varies. And every media you could have seen coming up with different values.
Right.
And we have our own estimates as to how far we would be losing.
And what are the estimates Tamil Nadu has?
We thought that should be somewhere between 5,000 to 10,000 crores.
10,000 crores.
5,000 to 10,000
Right.
crores to make it as a rough estimate. And this varies from states to states. And what needs to be considered now is states like Tamil Nadu, we are now on the midway. We have presented our budget, we have rolled our projects. Tamil Nadu is a state we must also understand and appreciate. We have been investing both on the infrastructure project as well as on the social development projects. Where would we go? Suddenly when we are deprived with this kind of money, huge money is taken away from your kitty and it is not going to be compensated when there is no assurance from the union government as to how this is going to be done. Completely we are left in lurch.
Right.
So where would the states go? We should always keep it in mind. Any rationalization or any radical changes will have to be done only in consultation, taking the states into confidence. So that is the very basic structure of GST. When GST Council is there, the decisions are taken on a common consensus basis. That should happen. That is the true spirit of cooperative federalism.
I was speaking to Nirmala Sitharaman, not me, the organization was, and I was present in that when she came over to our office just 2-3 days back. And she said, look, I was willing to put it to vote, but none of you all wanted it because a lot of your states were objecting to it. And she said, then let's take a vote. And you were against that process.
See, going for a voting is not a big deal, but why should we go for a vote? My request or my demand rather is, you should first talk to the states. It was not discussed before GST Council, before the decision was taken. See, this is actually the other way around. A decision was taken, a decision was announced, and then you call for the GST Council meet.
So it
then
was an
you
imposition.
roll out the, yes.
It was an imposition.
Yeah, exactly.
You're saying Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman virtually imposed the tax on yours.
She said, look, this is what the decision has already been made. And it is put for your approval. And when that is rolled out, and states, we do have our own apprehensions, our own fears as to what will happen to the state revenues. The states now, we have been made for expenditures of 2/3 of the expenditures, we are responsible. The 1/3 of the revenue is only we are getting. And 40% of my tax revenue is subsumed by under GST. For example, take Tamil Nadu, the 50% of my actual revenue comes from GST. When that is lost, where would I go? When I have my own other resources, SOTR, on a very limited basis. Those resources are very limited.
Correct.
I can't stretch further. I will have to predominantly banking only on the revenues from GST, the compensation which you are giving. After 2022, that compensation is stopped. So now what we are saying, you are making this change. And we are talking about the higher end SUVs and the sin products.
Correct.
It was 88. Now we are bringing to 48. The remaining 48 is there. What we suggest is, as an additional levy you put, make it as an additional levy. You still put. That additional levy can be actually given as a compensation to
For
all
the
the
states.
states.
Right.
We can
That's
now
an
divide it
interesting
with
thing.
among ourselves. Because this is not happening, even if when we made our case before the Finance Commission, actually the vertical devolution which was given to the states is only 41%.
As
We said
compared
that-
to earlier, 42.
Because successive finance commissions, they have been doing injustice to the states.
Right.
Because center's revenues are protected in terms of cess and cess charges.
That's right.
Whereas your devolution, when it is vertical, it is not there. So we should now go in for a distribution.
Right.
I agree. I'm not against distribute. It is good to distribute the resources. But on whose cost?
Yes.
You should not be penalized for the good thing you have done.
Right.
Tamil Nadu, the developed states, just because they have adopted novel practices, just because they have been progressive states, they should not be penalized for the good they have done.
That comes, we've got 3 more minutes, Minister, and that comes to the question of solutions. We have seen, as you're saying, the unfairness of the fiscal balance, and states, particularly opposition states, feel that they are being victimized for some of the good work they've done. What would you say would be the 3 or 4 things that the center needs to do to ensure that fiscal federalism prevails fairly?
So my thing is, instead of going for a choosy attitude, there must be a system by which it's a rule-based system. Mm-hmm. If the center comes with respect to a rule-based distribution system for the in the matters of fiscal issues, then that will actually solve this. There should be, or otherwise I would even suggest there can be an autonomous fiscal council that will actually deal into the appropriation of funds between the states and centers. Now, center, you reserve all the rights. You have you have this big brother attitude. Mm-hmm. You keep so much for you.
Right.
And you give less for the states, forgetting that the country or the center will be healthy only if the states are healthy. The state's fiscal health has to be maintained. That has to be protected. Once that is done, automatically the center's health will flourish.
So should we say that we have to rethink the entire finance commission? Should there be an alternative? Is this finance commission arrangement satisfactory, not satisfactory? The GST council satisfactory, not satisfactory? What is the big revamp you want?
We need to really go in for a basic structural revamp. If this is going to be the case, finance commissions, as I have already told, successive commissions, they have not done justice to the states. You said that, look, we will do the allocation, the distribution will be done based on the, underdeveloped states or the overdeveloped states or the better developed states. Suddenly what will happen? The entire resources will be diverted to other states. I don't want to name the states. They have not adopted the birth control programs. And we, late in 70s, we implemented it. And now we are being penalized for it. The good policies of the government during those times, that were actually implemented by governments like Tamil Nadu. And today you are paying for it. It is not correct. It is not fair. And just because you are a developed economy, it is not correct to really cut funds for you. If I thrive, if I flourish, that will automatically, it will take care of the other states also. So the simple thing is, this is only I would like to say this.
Say it.
When the country on a larger pie, the lesser developed states, when they get small, it will also actually, it will all get it.
Right.
This is how it should be.
And so you're calling for a complete revamp in terms of fiscal federalism, one?
There must be a structural change.
Right.
There must be an understanding of this. There must be fairness in this allocation of funds, be it an opposition ruled state or the treasury benches of the government ruled states. There must be a fair treatment as far as the fiscal issues are concerned.
On that note, Thangam Thennarasu, Minister for Finance, Climate Change and Environment, a brilliant exposition of what the state wants. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a very, very warm round of applause for that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Such a pleasure indeed. Thank you so much, sir. We had a good time. And thanks for this opportunity. Thanks a lot.